It was only about a year ago that AI really just exploded into our classrooms. It kicked off this massive real-time experiment in the history of education. So where are we now, 1 year later? Well, we've got some fresh data from a new national survey that kind of pulls back the curtain on it all. So what did we find out? Let's dive in. Okay, let's just start with the one number that jumps off the page, 43%. Get this, that's how many educators are now considered AI power users. We're talking about teachers and staff who are using these tools often or even always as part of their daily work. And to really get a sense of how fast this is all moving, look at this. Last year, that number was just 22%. So in a single year, the number of educators who are deeply integrating AI into their jobs has nearly doubled. So yeah, this isn't some niche tool for the early adopters anymore. This is mainstream. Okay, so that leads us right into our first big topic, AI's classroom takeover. We're going to take a look at the sheer speed and the scale of this adoption and see which tools are really leading the charge. It's probably no surprise that ChatGPT is still the big one. Almost three-quarters of educators are using it. But here's what's really interesting. Look at the other platforms. Magic School, which is an AI tool built just for teachers, has just surged to 40%. You've also got Canva's AI tools and Google's Gemini seeing huge growth. It shows the whole ecosystem is diversifying. Teachers are getting smarter about this, and they're starting to build out a whole toolkit, picking the right tool for the right job. All right, so with this crazy growth, you've got this natural tension, right? You've got the incredible promise of AI on one side and the very real challenges on the other. So let's explore that a bit, the good versus the bad. Let's start with the good stuff, and there's no better way than with a real story. This is Ivelichukwu Agu, a dean of instruction. She says AI has cut her workload by 5 to 10 hours every single week. Imagine that. It helps her with things like drafting observation notes and creating training materials, which frees her up to actually coach her teachers. And her story? It's not an outlier. It perfectly captures the bigger picture. When educators were asked the biggest benefits of AI, a whopping 70% said this right here. It reduces the time they spend on admin tasks. Think about that. AI is literally giving teachers back the one thing they never have enough of: time. Okay, so for teachers, it's all about saving time. But what about the students? What do teachers see as the top benefit for them? Well, it all comes down to one word: engagement. They say AI's greatest potential is making lessons that are tailored to what individual students are actually interested in. A teacher can now take a standard math problem and instantly reframe it for the kid who loves sports, or the one who's obsessed with video games, or the one who's dreaming of being a musician. But of course, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. With these new tools, we're seeing some new problems pop up, and some old ones get, well, a lot worse. And yep, you guessed it, the number one concern, and it's not even close, is still student cheating. And this isn't just a worry anymore, it's what's actually happening. The number of educators who've seen students cheat using AI has jumped from 51% all the way to 61% in just 1 year. That's a big deal. But here's where it gets really fascinating. So get this. Even though way more teachers are actually seeing students cheat with AI, their overall worry level about it hasn't really budged. It suggests there's this major shift happening. It feels like we're moving past the initial panic and into a more pragmatic, okay, so how do we deal with this phase? Maybe by rethinking how we test what students really know. And that shift in mindset brings us perfectly to our next big question: playing catch-up. While teachers are adopting on the fly, how is the education system itself? The schools, the policies. How are they racing to keep up with this new reality? Well, the good news is there's definitely some progress. Just last year, only about 20% of schools had any kind of official AI policy. This year, that number has doubled to 40%. The system is definitely starting to wake up. But, and this is a big but, that progress isn't happening everywhere. You can see here, urban and suburban schools are putting policies in place way faster than rural schools are. And you see the same gap when you compare wealthier districts to lower income schools. The bottom line is, whether or not you have clear rules to follow really depends on your zip code. And this quote from Donna Escute, who's a director in a rural district, it just hits the nail on the head as to why. She says that in her smaller community, a lot of folks are just getting used to the basics. You can't write a policy for something your community doesn't even really understand yet. It's a totally different ballgame.
Okay, so that's the schools and districts. But what about the teachers themselves? How are their own mindsets changing through all of this? It's pretty fascinating.
This is where things get a little weird. Let's call it the training paradox. On the one hand, the number of schools that are offering AI training has jumped up to 43%, which is great. And yet, for 51% of teachers, a lack of training is still one of their biggest concerns. That means more than half of teachers are basically being told, here's this world-changing technology, good luck, you're on your own. So to really get a handle on these different mindsets, the survey breaks educators down into 6 different types based on how much they use AI and how optimistic they are about it. You've got your AI enthusiasts on one end who are all in, and your traditionalists on the other who want no part of it. As I go through this, think about where you might fit. So, what's the breakdown look like? Where does everyone fall? Well, the biggest group by far, at 40%, are the cautious observers. They're kind of sitting on the sidelines waiting to see how it all shakes out. But here's the kicker. If you add up the AI enthusiasts and the pragmatic users, the people actually using it, that's 43% of all educators. That's the group really pushing this whole thing forward. And if you want to know what that forward-thinking mindset looks like in a real classroom, just listen to Paula Johnson, a special education teacher. She says the key is designing lessons where AI is a tool for growth, not just an easy way to get the answer. It's not about banning it. It's about outsmarting the shortcuts by designing better learning. That's the real shift. All right, so let's pull all these threads together. What does this all actually mean for the future of learning? So to recap, what have we learned? First, AI adoption went from 0 to 60. It's nearly doubled in just 1 year. Second, both the good stuff, like saving time, and the bad stuff, like cheating, are getting more intense. Third, the overall vibe is shifting from fear to a kind of cautious, pragmatic optimism. And finally, the system is trying to catch up with policies and training, but those resources aren't getting to everyone equally. And all of this leaves us with one big lingering question. The data makes it pretty clear. Educators are ready. They are on the ground, they're adapting, they're using these tools. But can the system, the schools and the districts, build the policies and provide the training that's so desperately needed to unlock AI's potential? And crucially, can they do it in a way that makes sure every single student, no matter where they live, gets to benefit?